All right, guys, we're back here with another episode of Sled Stories. We're up in Richford today with a absolute ripper in the woods. Our buddy Dylan Gendron is here. Well, actually, not here. We're here with you.
We're
at your
here. We
house.
came to him.
And we're sitting in your shop. This is an awesome place, man.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we staged them a little, we pouring rain outside. It's just about May right now, so it's not really sled season, but we figured might as well.
It's a miserable, pouring rain, chilly, crappy Sunday, and like what a better time to come sit inside and talk about sleds. You know, as far from snow again as we could be.
Unfortunately, it's over for 7 months again. 6, 7.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're used to hearing this rain for the
Yeah. Usually comes after a foot of snow, the rain does. So.
Yeah, unfortunately it does. We had a sticker specifically about this, about our feelings about rain.
Might as well been, middle of January with this kind of rain this year. But I can't help but miss your car in here, man. That's it's a good addition to the sled background.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I have a lot of bad habits with stuff with engines. So. Stuff with, especially with turbos.
Yeah, I was across where people can't see your Razor's turbo. All your diesels are turbo. Sleds are turbo. Well, soon maybe we'll see.
Well, soon.
I say turbo everything.
Yeah, turbo everything.
Turbo the world.
Yeah.
So speaking of the car, like run us through a little about the car, because you don't really see Supras around very often,
especially in middle of nowhere, Vermont.
Yeah. So I guess I got a love for them at a young age, and I always wanted one. So
was it like the Fast and the Furious thing that got you into it, or was it something else?
I gotta admit it was.
I mean, guilty as charged.
Yeah. It was
guilty.
So the scene where they pull up to the red light and the guy's in the Ferrari.
Yeah.
And that scene, I was like, wow, I wonder if those cars really are capable of that.
Yeah.
And that's not just Hollywood. That these cars
really
get down.
are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's so a lot of people, I don't know, they kind of think it's just the Fast and the Furious movie that makes them what they are, but it's actually, how they're built. How they come from the factory, like forged internals. They're very well built for the 90s.
Yeah. So how did you end up with this one? What's the story of how it made it to Richford, Vermont?
So I had made the decision I was going to get one, and
You said it was a 93, right?
Yep. And I was just kind of scrolling, shopping around, and everything was a little out of my budget. And one night I hopped on and I saw this white one here. It was a roller for sale in the Bronx, and so
seems legit.
Yeah, my wife was due to have our first child. 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks from when I found it, and I was like, so this isn't going to last.
It's a great segue to go.
Yeah. So it really didn't go over well, and which totally can understand on her part. And
so we're having a kid, and you're buying a dream car. Cool.
Yeah. That also needs ungodly amount of time. And
needs an engine,
and you're going to the Bronx to get it with a backpack full of cash. So just total bad decisions. And so we roll down into the Bronx. A friend of mine I went to school with went with me, and we get down there, and it's just a really cool culture. Actually, it's like we pulled onto the street that this car was at. And
what year is this, Dylan?
93.
No. What year would you buy the car?
It's God, I've had it for about 5 years, almost.
So 2018,
years.
2019, something like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and so like we roll down there, and it's like as soon as you get off the interstate, like it was just an instant change. And there's like Skylines, there's not the R34s, but like the
R32s and 3s.
Yeah. There's like your Mitsubishi Evos.
Yep.
Just every like
whole different scene down
good,
there, like in the city. Yeah.
And like these people are right out on the side of the street, like doing engine swaps, like right in the street.
That's got to be so. That must have made you feel better, though. You're like, oh, these are car people. Like they're all into this. This isn't just some random Supra that's really questionable. These people are obviously all into JDM tuners.
Right, because the scene in Vermont is not that.
There is no scene.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so it made me feel a lot better. I mean, obviously, New York City is nothing like there's nothing like it. Mm-hmm. So I was very nervous.
Yep.
Rolling into an area like that, where I'm from. They talk about cars that are on the side of the road. Tires ripped off them. You know what I mean? But it was actually a really cool experience.
That's awesome.
There was like totally gutted cars, like cars that had been wrecked. They gutted it and they would leave them on the side of the street for the city to pick up.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So they take everything that's good off them, just leave the shell, and that's it.
Yeah. Yep. And, move on to find your next donor body.
Yeah.
And, it was really cool guys. I'm actually still friends with a guy on Facebook.
Oh, that's really cool.
And he's still flipping. He does quite a few of them a year. So
there's never not a market for anything like that. There's people still into that, no matter how. Even if Fast and Furious came out 20 years ago or whatever it is now.
That kind of reminds me of the story about when I bought I had a 2000 Honda Civic SI that I bought in probably 2005, and found it on. I think I found it on. There wasn't even a marketplace at that time. It must have been Craigslist.
It was Craigslist
that I found it on, and guy didn't. These are all Russian dudes in Westfield, Massachusetts. The car was 100% stolen. And I go to my dad. I go, Dad, I'm gonna buy this car, and he's just shaking his head, why are you buying this car? We go to this one lot in Westfield. There's 3 or 4 Russian guys and probably 10 Honda Civics that are all completely just broken. Every dashboard cracked and broken.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these cars were all stolen. It was probably the most sketchiest thing I've walked into to try to buy a car.
Yeah.
We actually brought one of the guys on the job site who was Russian, because we're like, hey, we need you to come down. So
we need an interpreter.
We need some Russian muscle, so we're not complete, just guys walking into this situation gonna get every dime stolen off of us when we're trying to buy a stolen.
Get worked over.
Yeah, and that's like the same fear everyone up here had for me. They're like, you're probably not going to come home. And I was like, well, it is my dream car and it's the closest thing I can afford, so I'm going to go for it.
Yeah. But you said it didn't have a motor in it, right? You said you bought the motor separately?
Yeah, it was a rolling chassis, so no motor, no transmission. It had 4 tires and wheels that were flat and weather cracked. So we looked cute trying to push it on the trailer,
Yeah.
And all the interior was totally stripped and just in a pile. There was a couple back panel pieces still on that were actually protecting you could see the bodywork, the crinkle on the inside. So those were still on there.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever, they're 20-something-year-old cars, so
you're not going to find a clean one unless you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars.
6-figure cars now, so
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it seems like it's in great shape.
Yeah, rust-wise, it's almost 100%.
That's awesome.
So that's the most important thing, building off a solid structure,
Yeah, you get your rest of your life to find every perfect part and put,
That's
make it exactly what you want it to, and it's, you're never going to lose on it. That's for sure, because they're,
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys coming in, picking up on the aftermarket stuff because there's just such a demand still.
Yeah.
And so no, hopefully someday it'll be done, but my snowmobiling habits will keep sucking up the funds for that and burning up here. So
yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, it's like one thing to have one expensive hobby, but add another one. You got to kind of take it easy with the wife and just kind of, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy this, so that's sleds, car. Yeah, it's you're not alone in that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's
one
tough.
stupid purchase every 2 years or so is ideal.
Yeah,
2 to 3, maybe 1.
Yeah. Not too many stray boxes roll in here anymore.
That's hilarious.
But that was it was. When I remember when you first said that you had a Supra, I was like, oh man, that is just that's like a unicorn car. That's like you don't see those cars anywhere around. So it's
it's funny, you either see them at a show or on social media or whatever, and they're just perfection. They've had thousands of hours of work done to them, and they're perfect. And it's yours is kind of in the middle. It's still a canvas to do with whatever you. It's obviously still a sick car and it goes and all that, but
it'll never be a show car.
Yeah, which is fine. That's cool to me. I'd rather a driver than a trailer princess.
Yeah. Well, so actually, the roll cage that's in it, I built it, and my brother-in-law did the candy apple red spray job on it.
Yep.
So I always wanted a street strip kind of car, and the value of the parts that came out of the back, of course, they're 20-something year old, so they're cracked, and I didn't want a rattly interior, so I sold off a lot of these broken pieces. People knew they were broke and paid big money for them, and that actually funded a fair amount of the build.
That's
amazing.
People still buying broken quarter trim and stuff like that because
they don't make them anymore. So it's like
they don't make them.
If you can find one that's not broken too bad, you can potentially fix it, or
Yeah, and the other cool part is parts to this car went all over the world. Like
that's awesome.
Just as quick as you can post them, if they're priced right, they're gone. So there's my spare tire hatch ended up in Hawaii.
No way.
Yeah, so
that was probably not cheap to ship to Hawaii.
Wow.
No, so that's someone's
cool,
ripping
though.
a Supra in Hawaii with my piece of my car on it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But then, aside from the car, you got a couple chariots in here that are getting ready to get put away for the winter. That one's got
summer, you mean?
some a little, until the winter.
Yeah, we're hardcore here. We go to the end. So this one looks like it went through a mud fest, but
which I didn't get to be a part of because of my leg, but I heard it was quite soupy on the way out.
Oh wow, it was four-wheeling pretty much.
Yeah,
the last 100 yards coming out.
Was. And the cool part about it is we ride in on 6 inches of snow. You know what I mean? And we go ride 3.5, 4.
We talked about it. Max and I talked about it in the last pod we did, but that area, the Jeffersonville Green Mountain area that we are deeming it is amazing. Like just leaving the last time we went, the mud that we rode for, a mile maybe.
Yeah, it was rough.
But as soon as you climb up that first couple thousand feet, it's like it changes completely.
Yeah.
And we had great snow that last time we went up there. You said your hand was bothering you a little bit, which is still
which we kind of determined here
might be broken.
Yeah, it is a little bit different, you could say now. And I think it's going to be permanent. So when I pull my hand shut, this finger wants to kind of lightly overlap my middle finger now.
But
so
you need to realignment or something.
That's your brake hand though.
It is.
Oh, so you're good then. And, you just need this.
Yeah. Well,
you got 3 more in this hand.
Yeah. So it's hard to ride the brake though with any other finger other than these.
Well, that was just it. Yeah. So trying to change like that wasn't, and it just hurt so bad. Like it was just such a deep ache in my hand.
Yeah.
And on that note, what are some injuries? Like, do you have a hit list of the worst injuries you've had?
My worst injuries actually came from in the beginning was freestyle stuff, and I had.
Well, I was going to say, tell us about that. Tell us how'd you get into snowmobiling? Like, what was your first?
So I grew up. I grew up basically on sled necks. 8, 9, somewhere in there.
VHS.
So yeah, just kind of coming out of the VHS area.
I think Y2K was the last VHS that I had.
Yeah,
and then it went to DVD.
And those were big.
Oh man, that's so depressing to think about that.
Yeah, those guys were big sends back then. You know what I mean?
I still don't go that big.
Yeah, and
not even big sends, but the sleds they were
exactly
on are just
dinosaurs.
Compared to today's
trailing
technology.
arm sleds jumping over lodges and houses and crazy shit like that. And it's like I wouldn't do that on the modern stuff.
Speaking of that, before we go any further, we need to do that this year.
What, jump a lodge?
Spring.
Vintage?
No. Remember the vintage run we were going to talk about doing?
Oh yeah.
Me, you, Tony. If
Tony
Dylan
found
wants
one.
it,
Tony found a citation.
Yeah.
Yes.
He told me.
They're some Larry and Tyser stuff, right?
We want basically we want to get a whole fleet of just old bones, but we're talking fan cooled 400 or less cc. They just got to be super bony so that. Because it's just so much fun.
Tony's the youngest.
Not anymore.
Actually, no.
Dylan is.
How old are you, Dylan?
30 now. Yeah, it's a tough one. That's an offensive question.
So we could change the rules a little bit. If Dylan's going to be the youngest one, then no sled can be
newer than 30 years old.
Newer than Dylan's age.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 30 years or older.
That puts us at 94.
That'd be a good time.
Yeah. 94 or older.
Okay, I can go with that.
We can go to 94.
But can't be any triples or anything with real power. It's got to be, it's got to be slow and fun like a phaser and Tyser. That's the idea. Someone shows up with something with some actual power. Like everything else is going to be useless.
Air cooled, just
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just usually the spring fling in April, and come up in some hoodies and put some Iron Maiden on and just rip around the camp and just make a little course and just have
bring a couple skid steers up there. Maybe we could bang out a few jumps, like a quick little course.
We did the first year that we did the spring fling. I don't know if you ever saw the video of that, but I brought my tractor up, and that's when I messed up my left knee and I couldn't ride. So I was busy building a jump, and we built a huge jump over a fire.
So I saw that on one of your videos.
Yeah. Which we want to recreate in the worst way possible, but unfortunately, come 1st of April, we haven't had the snow depth to make it make sense.
It's been over quick the last few years.
Yeah.
But although this year we did get, I think everyone on the East Coast can agree, we all got 3 last rides in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely came late for sure.
Which was a miracle. Like, that just doesn't happen, and it did.
Yeah. But sorry for the
we got off track a little bit. So
sorry for the derailment. But back to your story. Back to your story.
Well, trying to think here. So anyway, I grew up watching Sled Next, and I was always like that kid that was like, remember my family took me to like a freestyle show when I was a kid, and I always thought like, oh, that's the ticket. You know what I mean? And then as I got older, and I never.
So freestyle was your first, like, I want to do that.
Yeah, I think I kind of thought of it as more of a career. You know what I mean? I just like looked at like the traveling. You get to travel everywhere, get paid to do it. So that I always kind of thought that's what I was going to do, and I never gave it up. And I was still like 17, senior in school. Like, I'm going to do something with snowmobiling. I'm going to do it. And everyone's like, oh, you're crazy. You're from the East Coast. You're never going to find a freestyle team here. And
did you grow up in Richford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I ended up, one of my friends knew this guy. His name was Levi. And he's like, hey, reach out to him. He rides with this freestyle team and see if they, be interested in.
Was that the Rave X team at the time, or was it called something else? Or
it wasn't Rave X.
It was pre-Rave X?
It was Tree Line Sled Style, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Jesse was the owner of the team's name, and I reached out to him, wicked cool guy, and he was like, hey, get yourself a sled. I didn't even know what the best sled was. Was it a race sled, or was it the 600?
Yep.
Or like 440. So the best I could come up with was a 440 IQ, and the 440s are pretty. yeah. So. The problem with the 440s is they in the belly of those ramps, you really lose a lot of, you just don't have the torque like a 600 does. Yeah. So anyway, I roll out there, and like all the guys were super, super cool. I was so scared. And they like pushed the ramp way up close, and like they worked it back, and they were all good to go. Like they could have hit it full distance, but they did that for me. And a couple of the boards were giving up on the ramp. And so we had to stop. It was just before dark, and it was going to be a nighttime show. We were practicing the day before. So, I kind of came out of my groove, like adrenaline rush kind of died, and we replaced the boards, pulled the ramp back to 65 feet. The lights were on, so that kind of like the gauge in the distance was off. And I was like speed checking, and I guess you could say I didn't compensate for being on a 440. So I speed checked the guy in, and the way he hit ramps was a little slower, and then like full gas.
Right. Roll in slow and then wrap.
Yeah.
And like a couple of the Rave X guys are wild when you watch them go, because they hit it at the speed they need.
Yeah.
So that's way more intimidating to me than coming in kind of slow and collected.
Yep.
And then gassing it.
Yep. So they go in. Some of them just go in hot, full tilt.
Yeah. They just roll in with the speed they need, and yeah. But I was kind of a go in slow and crack it, basically.
Yep.
And so I didn't have enough steam, so I ended up with a lot of head injuries. And so that was like my first. Actually, that was my second severe head injury. If I go back a ways to the family that I bought that 440 off from, I think it was Ackers, and they're like a big family. Race and snowcross, and they're like, I told them what I was gonna do with it, and they're like, oh, you should come out and try a snowcross race. And I was like, I'm really more focused on the freestyle, but I went out and did it anyway, and I did pretty good in the practices, and I think my nerves really got to me. And like having everyone there the next day, and your line, it was the first time I'd ever been lined up with like 20 sleds, and
guys with way more experience and just
I mean, I wasn't in a high. I think I did the novice class, but still all guys that have a good understanding of riding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I made it like 200 feet and just left in an ambulance straight. Like,
oh man.
Sled went like end for end. So I was so nervous. I felt like I was going to be sick. So I didn't buckle my chin strap on my helmet.
Oh no.
And I of course I was nervous coming up to the line, and I forgot to buckle it. So when things started going bad in the whoop section, I was just trying to hold on, and I ended up going wide open, like whiskey throttle in it. And I never let go of the sled. For some reason, I had an idea I was going to be able to save it, and that was the dream. Wasn't even close.
Oh, man.
And my helmet came up. I actually knocked these 3 teeth.
Oh, jeez.
This tooth I knocked totally in and had a fracture in my nose. I couldn't shut my jaw.
Did you smack the bars? That's what I was
just straight off the bar. I can't believe it didn't break my teeth off. I don't know how. It put my teeth through my lip.
Oh, gosh.
And so I had a pretty severe concussion from that, and I had a wire holding my teeth together.
Boy.
And what year is this?
I was 19, I want to say. I was 18. Actually, 18.
So 12 years ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago. Yeah.
Yep. And then, so if I fast forward back to so this is like about a month later, I want to say. I think I just had the wire pulled off my teeth. My family was like, "Oh my God, like give it up," And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna go do this. Like I'm gonna do it."
Yep.
And I wadded up there, came up short, so I misjudged in the lighting and the power of the sled. Full backsided. Of course, I panic revved once I saw the sled was going to come up short.
Yeah, you want to land at least more.
I want to get the nose up, and it's all on a GoPro. Like it's pretty wild to still look back and see. And
I haven't seen this video. I got to see this.
No, I could put it.
Yeah,
put it here.
Yeah,
it was a brutal.
This
hit.
Corner. Yeah.
Blew the chain case like right to pieces when it hit.
Was this a snow landing or a?
It was a snow landing, but it had been set up for a few. Oh yeah, no bag.
No bag.
No. The bags are the guys on the bags are. It's so much better for them. So much safer.
Yeah.
As long as you don't miss it completely. At least with the snow, you did have a taper.
Yeah.
The bags, you don't have that.
You have your runway, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever? Who was that? What was that one team that we used to go out to the ramps to go see? Was it Exxon?
Ex-Con. EXCON. Ex-Con.
Did you know those guys by chance?
They're not actually ex-convicts, but they're ex-con freeride. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the guy. What the hell was his name?
Which one?
The guy that we used to go down. Remember we went to that.
Eric St. John was one of them. He's your neighbor.
Yeah, I know Eric. But,
yeah.
You know Eric.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah. So I used to ride with Eric.
Yeah.
Eric actually, I had it in my mind that I was going to do a flip, and Eric, actually I have a set of flip levers up there that Eric made.
No way.
Yep. Yeah, he made them for me.
So you jumped with Eric a bunch?
Yep. Yeah.
He's a really good dude. Yeah. He actually lives right down the street from Ryan.
Yeah.
He still lives there, or he sold the place?
He moved, but he's still. I think he's still in Milton though.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good dude.
But we went down to that one. Remember that one track we went down to? I forget what the hell it was.
In Barrie.
Was it in Barrie?
Yeah. The giant chip track, or the big. They had like 2 big chip jumps.
Was that at Jesse's house? Probably.
I don't know. I don't know
maybe
who was
it was Jesse.
In I think
Jesse.
Guy's
maybe it was
backyard.
Jesse.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to show me a photo of him. It was obviously a long time ago. And then we went down to that one event. Remember that farm?
I wasn't with you for that, but yes,
it was me, Paul, and someone else, and there was a freestyle sleds.
Yep.
Jumping, and I wonder if we ever crossed paths at that time.
Yeah.
Maybe because that was probably like 2000.
So did you guys ever go to like the Barrie Freestyle Show, or
no.
Did you go to the Snowdio?
Yeah, we've been to all the Snowdios. And I know they obviously. Well, again, that's
did
why
you
I
go
asked
to
about
Old Forge, New York?
Nope, I haven't been to that one.
Yeah.
Nope.
So that was.
So you jumped there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the wildest one.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy place.
That's wild.
So how long did you do snowcross versus freestyle?
Snowcross was a one-time thing. I was like, I was like, no,
it wasn't even a full lap, as best you're telling me.
Yeah, no, it wasn't either. It wasn't. It was like, And it was rough. It was rough. And then of course there's people that, oh God, didn't even, everyone's always got something to say, you know what I mean? But so I guess my love from freestyle kind of came from learning at your own pace. You know, that's one thing I really liked about it.
Did you ever have like a ramp set up or anything here near home that you could, go out and practice on?
I did. So I just basically kind of stacked up a couple like bad head injuries, and that was kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of a wake up call because the doctors were kind of like, you gotta
do that.
Yeah, you're 19 years old and you've had like 3 severe concussions in such a short span. He's like, you should
there's
really
something to be said about head injuries versus even like
so
obviously you're getting off of your leg injury now.
I am, and I can't remember who I was talking. I'm going the same place you are, but who I was talking about, and I'm like, what? I've been really lucky. I haven't had, knock on wood, somewhere. You've had a bunch of head injuries. Obviously, you have. Yeah. I've injured myself plenty, but I've never. Yeah. I've only had my bell rung really bad a couple times, and that was when I was younger and not snowmobile related at all. And like, obviously, you're one of your worst injuries ever was from snowmobile. Obviously, you've got a couple, and it's like that's one thing. I guess I'm glad. And I don't know, bones heal, but your head.
It's like something about like hurting extremities is like not to be underplayed, but like when you deal with like in my mind when you deal with like your back and your head,
those things
and your neck, like those three things are the three areas.
They may not necessarily ever be fully fixed.
Exactly,
basically.
those you don't mess around.
You're talking permanent. Potentially damage, unfortunately.
Legs, ankles, arms, fingers, wrists, like those were like,
it'll be all right.
It hurt. Yeah, I had a rough weekend, but when you start doing the back, the neck, and the head, you're like, not so much.
Yeah.
So fast forward that. So you did freestyle for a number of years, and then like when did the whole like woods type of riding transition for you?
So
when did you take your snowcross sled in the woods and you're like, yes, this is what I got to do? Or your jumping sled and you're like, let's go.
That same freestyle sled. So I've got some good friends from like the Jeffersonville area, and they're always like, we got to get together and ride over here. Like, and we know there's got to be some good mountain riding, So one day we got together and, it was weeks of riding. I want to say it was almost like two years really before we found like Area 51, we'll call it. And and it was, I've still got like the original footage of punching into that place on a short track, like just going at that thing for hours, like 4 or 5 of us, just to make it
trying to get to the top.
And like the first shelf in there, we never made it over that on short tracks ever.
Which in normal snow would be incredibly difficult to get up there with a short track. Like really difficult. You'd have to.
Oh yeah.
It's just not.
We were shot by like noon. Everyone was just like, and a couple guys, occasionally you dip off on these shorties and you're not coming back.
No.
You know what I mean? So
we got it so good these days now.
Oh my God.
Like you can make the worst mistake and still throttle your way out of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it really all just came to an end. Like, so I like sponsored my last year of freestyle on a credit card. So between that,
Capital One sponsor.
Yeah.
Thank you to my number one.
Right, you're 19 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
you
don't even have your own house. You're racking up all kinds of debt just to try to make something that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
And I was starting to get like paid a little bit to go to these shows and stuff, and like some sponsored gear that was really cool. But I mean, at the end of the day,
you're not making money.
At the end,
you barely covered your expenses, right?
The guys that were making money back then were the guys that could flip.
Yeah.
So they were getting, there was a good spin, and then now everyone flips. So it's.
But on the flip side of the coin, not last year, but the year before at Grass Drags, they didn't have a single sled jump, which is like,
it seems like the freestyle is headed the other way now. It's not.
It is.
The backcountry is really.
That's where people want to be.
And that's kind of what happened to me. Like I instantly I'd never really tree rode much, and I was like, this is wild. Like this is wild, and so. Like we have a family business that I wanted to take over, and we were going to be getting ready to buy a house. So I took a couple of years. I just kind of sold everything.
Yep.
Got out of it.
And is that when you reached out to me when I was selling my red sled, or like is that when? Because that's when you were like, looking to get a mountain sled or get out into the woods more.
I went 4 years without a snowmobile, and yeah, when I reached out to you, we had just bought this house, and things were like settling back in, and I was like, I got to get back out there.
Yeah,
like, I'm watching Instagram, like Facebook, all these guys, that even in just that 4 years, it took a big change, for like riding style.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
There was like a group. There was a time frame where like it went from absolutely non-existent type of sport to riding, and it just took it.
Exploded. It exploded.
Yeah. Probably I would say like 2010 to 2012. In that time frame, was probably when it like really took off and like became much more popular.
It did, and the technology of the sleds got wild.
Yeah, and it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing, and everybody, even people that weren't off trail riding, it's like gotta have a mountain sled. I want a long track. I'm like that's the way that everything was going, and so how we ended up meeting each other is we talked about before, I'd never sell red sled, the old 17.
Yeah.
But I actually, at one time when it was a little cleaner, we'll say, I had it for sale.
A little more pep in its step.
It definitely had, it was in better shape, let's put it that way. And I didn't know Dylan from anybody. Mind you, he lives 35 minutes from my house. But like I had the sled for sale, and he was one of the only people that reach out to me kind of serious about like asking me real questions about it, not just tire kicker, like, hey, I'll give you $4, whatever. He was like, ask me questions about the sled or whatever. And he didn't end up buying it, which is totally fine. But that's how we ended up meeting each other. And like, wait, you live in Richford and I live in Fairfield. And then we just started, it was a couple of years of just like, just staying in touch. And then before you knew it, we were like kind of fast friends and ended up riding together. And here we are, obviously.
So, and like so before I had found you, I did follow like the Sled the East brand. Like I'd see it around, but I never knew who it was.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool how we ended up kind of coming together, And
here we are sitting in your shop interviewing you.
Now we're taking trips to Canada and finding new places.
Well,
to ride.
Ryan and I talked about it in the last podcast. We were raving and getting back to like the Jeffersonville area. It's like the work that you guys put in. We didn't know that other people like us, other backcountry fools like us, are like so close and also doing the same sort of thing that we're trying to do and pushing it and really trying to find terrain and whatever. So it's like it was just a good find, like to meet you guys, and obviously your whole crew is they're all rippers and it's a good group of guys.
Yeah, we did assemble a pretty good.
For sure. So that's
there's a couple new guys that on like. Because, like we had that crew back years ago, and then a couple guys dipped out, a couple new guys came in that I just met 3 years ago, and it's a good solid crew, and a couple of the guys put in quite a bit of work in the summer in there. I actually feel like,
a lot. You can definitely tell that the amount of research has gone in there is pretty remarkable.
When I was laid up doing nothing with my leg, I reached out to AJ and a couple, and I'm like, listen, if there's any like work weekends or you want to go up and cut some trails or what, like I'll bring the 4-wheeler chain. Like I'm in. I want to contribute because I appreciate letting me in basically. And like I'd be happy to come up and help do that sort of stuff too,
Yeah, it's a really cool place. It really is.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on like the Chick Chocks? I know that was like maybe not one of your first trips or your big trip, or like so. How was
Volin was as far as you made it into Canada before, right?
Colorado the year before.
Well, no, I just meant east. We're talking
Canada?
like Canada.
Yep. That was the furthest.
Okay, so Chick Chocks.
Yeah,
I love it. I wanted to go back this year, but unfortunately I just came back from Velin
and we decided to go like the day before we left.
Yeah,
so that doesn't help.
Yeah, I got a message from Max. He's like, "Hey, we're headed to the Chick Chocks in 2 days," and I was like, "Oh my!" I just barely unpacked my gear from the last one. My kids are like, "Oh, Dad," they're happy to see me, and I was like,
"Dad's gonna go work on a sled and get going again."
Yeah, I was like, unfortunately, I'm gonna sit this one out. But
it was also really hard here too. Like it was
everywhere, the whole East Coast.
We struggled up there a couple days we were up there to find.
Even it was every bit as good as any place it was going to be at the time on the East, but it was still not.
The whole, like, even a lot of like big guys I follow out west were like hard up for snow. points. I think Colorado kind of had a pretty consistent.
Colorado and like Utah and just a little bit of Wyoming is the only areas that had like a good, quote unquote, good winter out there. Normal to good. But like obviously on the East, including we were talking about Jonathan and the Chick-Chocs, because we were saying like, oh, it's a bummer I didn't get to see him this summer or this winter rather. And and like he's just such a great guy. Like I'd be happy to see him any time of year because he's a friend. But like, he had to cancel weekends and trips and stuff for people because it just never got to where it needed to be.
I mean, I think if he was close to canceling on us when we went up there. When we pivoted real quick, and I think just the the kind of the history we have, just knowing him, he was kind of like, you guys can still come up and we'll find something. But I think if it was a normal group he didn't know, and he was obviously when he books somebody, he wants to show them a good time. He doesn't want someone to come up and spend the money and take the trip and have it not be good. So I think if we were anybody else, I think he would have canceled.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't bother.
But he was very honest. Like, this is what you're getting.
Yeah, he was
very
honest.
This is what to expect. And we're like, well, there's literally nothing here. We can't ride anywhere. Right. So and we had just, when you got family and, jobs and obligations, like you plan a long weekend.
I have this time. So
I'm going riding. I don't care where it is. We're going.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You actually hit it really good in Volin this year. The one time you went though, right?
Yeah,
you went twice or once.
One time this year.
Yeah, and
last year I went 3 times, and we had a good.
I think you hit probably the only decent like snow. I think when you went, right?
I know the guys hit it once towards the end there, and it looked like it was wild. Yeah, it was deep.
Yeah.
But that's a really awesome place to ride up there. I love the power lines. Like, when the power lines are snowed in good, it's a blast.
Yeah. Well, if you want to learn to trick, if you want to learn to do bow ties and reentries and whatever, the power lines, as far as the East and like that area goes, is some of the best. Like safe, if the snow's good, a safe area to try anything, basically.
That's just it, yeah.
Because it's the only thing that's open.
Yeah, it's low risk as far as the sled goes.
Yeah.
It's if it rolls down the hill a little ways, no big deal. It's not gonna keep going through the trees. And, you pick it up in 5-gallon pails. That's that's a bad day.
Yeah.
But one thing you kind of touched on a little before about, your kids, when you got home from Berlin and you were trying to go up to the Chick-Chocs and your kids were happy to see you. And like, I know you have 3 kids now.
Oh yeah. Yep. 3 little ones.
Hashtag girl dad.
Yeah.
Saw the sticker on the truck and I was like, oh, that's sweet. I like that.
And I think obviously I have 2 kids myself, a little older than your kids now. And I think it's just really relatable for some of the guys who are going to listen to this. Like, what are some of the struggles that you've had to, navigate through or, have been involved with since your kids were born and trying to coordinate snowmobiling into your winter? Like, how's that?
I think being a girl dad definitely softens you up. Like, you definitely turn into a baby. So, like when your daughters are, crying because you're not there at night and they want to go to bed, that's tough. Yeah. No matter how much fun, like when we were in the Chick-Chocs last time, like I knew they were having a hard time and we were having a great time in the cabin. But as soon as I found that out, I was like, sitting there, I was kind of bummed.
So the call comes in, the FaceTime comes in, and you're like having a good time with your buddies, and you're like,
oh boy,
and you have to switch your brain to be like into dad mode, and you have to just turn it off and and kind of disconnect from the great time you're having to be like, the kind of the sadness that they're feeling that you're not.
The reality of
the reality of like, where are you? When you coming? Like that kind of thing is just tough to deal with.
And I never, before I had kids, I was never a homesick person. Like I could get in a car and go up. I don't care. Well, not big on flying, but a car and drive anywhere.
Yep.
Like I don't care. Florida, just go anywhere.
Yep.
And I would never get homesick. And now it's tough. Like if I'm gone, more than a couple, 2-3 nights, I'm starting to have a hard time.
Yeah, you're missing the girls.
Yeah. So,
and how old is your oldest?
She's 5.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So the one thing that I noticed was too is when they're real young, you're in the stage that you're at now where they're really missing you and like they want you to be home and this and that. I gotta I don't know, I haven't met your daughters, but like if one of your daughters gets into snowmobiling or into just wanting.
Yeah, I'd like to get them in.
Then you're gonna have the flip side when they'll be like, Dad, I want to go with you. Can I come with you? Can I come with you? And you're like,
which is where your boy is now.
My boy's 10, and he's in that mode now where he's like, Dad, I can go. I can ride. Because he came up in the spring and up to Max's place, and we were riding around. He was just loving it.
Like hood rat stuff.
That's awesome.
Hood rat stuff with the boys.
Hood rat stuff with the boys.
Yeah. You know, so like every time I'm leaving for a trip,
that a thought.
Every time I'm leaving for a trip, he's just like, Dad, I can go, I can ride, and it's just
that's tough.
It's like a new toughness. It's like a new scenario where it's like before they just want you to be home, but now he wants to go with you, and now you have to say, not now, buddy, and you know, and then just like there's a couple times I've literally pulled in the driveway, and he's come outside and been like, Dad, we go snowmobiling, and I'm like, I don't want to get on my snowmobile. I'm so sick of my snowmobile right now, and I'll go for a ride in our field next to our house with him, and it's like, you know, just because
I spent all weekend fighting this thing. The last thing I want to do is get back on it.
My bones want the couch right now, and he just wants to get back on the, you know, go for a ride, and it's like
he wants to
those little things where it's like, yeah, we'll go for a ride, buddy, and then so it's tough to say not this time, buddy, you know. And,
there's nothing you want more than your kid to follow and be like, yeah, let's go. I want to ride. I want a snowmobile. But then you're also like, there's times I got to go out with the boys and like, you just can't come. Like, there's no way. Like, I can't have it.
I just want to take a snapshot in time. Be like, your enthusiasm right now, bottle this. When you're like 14, 15 years old and you can rip, like, and then
once you can start muscling that thing around,
and you can come ride and rip, then then absolutely.
Well, he's the same way with he's been the same way with grass drags for a while. Like, Dad, I want to go and help you do grass drags, and we're like, we would love that more than anything. But what you have to understand is it's 5 days of nothing but work.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the luster wears off fast, and you just get tired, and it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Same with snowmobiling. Same with going away for like a 3-day weekend or whatever. It's like when you're done, you're done. You're beat.
There was a year he was slinging tees with Nick Brian at the end of the
$10 tee, $10.
Dude, he is the funniest dude ever when he's slinging tees at the end of the show.
Yeah.
It's like straight up harassment.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Hey, your T-shirt sucks. You need a new one." Like, just start.
We only cut him loose for like the last hour on Sunday when we got the things we got to get rid of, and he's savage. He goes out there. He stands in the middle of the run and he'll just pick on anybody. It'll be a 60-year-old guy or a 13-year-old dude. Like, he doesn't care. He's like, your shirt sucks. Come over here. You know what you need? We're doing 3 for 20.
And he sells some tees, and so to bring it around, my son was there one year, and Will was actually like out, like kind of slinging tees and, you know, trying things on and kind of selling with Nick, and my wife was down for the weekend, you know, helping us work, and she was actually headed back to Vermont and taking my kids, and it did not end well. He was crying, and I had to put him in the car crying because he's like, I want to stay, and I'm like,
that's
buddy,
tough.
I'm like, I got to tear down, I got to work, like, you know,
you
got school tomorrow, like, it's, you know, it's
I remember you came back and you were shaking. You were like, dude,
that was so
you're like,
hard.
that was so hard. Like, he was just destroyed, but he's like, you know, this is, especially when we're breaking down, that's go time. Like,
you're ready to get out of there.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, I just want to take that snapshot of enthusiasm and just be like, keep this,
hang on to that.
Because if you know, it's gonna be there when you're, you know, you can really become an asset.
And we're gonna love your help. We're gonna take every bit of it we can, whether it's grass drags or pulling skis in the woods. We want you there, buddy. One day, promise, we want you.
It is. I don't know. To me, it's just such a special like sport. I've done some pretty cool stuff. And, like, you know, I've done some deer hunting. I've shot a couple. No, I'm not a big hunter, but I've shot a couple deer, and nothing gets my blood pumping like
snowmobiling.
And to me, it's like, you know, that one adrenaline rush you get, you know, when like a good buck steps out in front of you, you get it 100 times in the same day.
It's the same. It's the same feeling when you figure out how to do a bow tie, then you can't do it again. It's like chasing a deer that you.
yeah, like that adrenaline, like, you know what I mean, and like everything you look at that, you know, like, all right, this is going to be a challenge, but, you know, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. That's that same adrenaline rush over and over and over again.
So I would be remiss not to ask, where's the kitty cat? Where's the 120? Like, I don't see one here in the shop, and your girls can ride. Like,
I may have one for sale.
Yours is just
next year. So.
Are you gonna?
Yeah, I have a 120 now. My daughter rides it around now, so it'd probably be another year or two before.
Yeah.
2.
She's 6.
I got to do something.
She's 7 now. She just turned 7.
Yeah.
I got to do something before 2 years. I'd like something for them next year.
Oh, absolutely.
They've been ripping 850. They do pretty good. I don't cut them loose, but I let her, like.
You got to tape a little block to the end of the bar so the flipper can't go down all the way. So just let her putz around on it.
Yeah. No,
how's the interest? Is it? Do they have interest in?
Oh yeah, they like it. They like it. Yep, both of them. So I haven't figured out how we're gonna do it with 3 here, but.
Have you noticed like different personality types between your kids, and like some one kid will be really into it and the other kid not so much, and then flip flops, and then one will be into it and the other one not, and
they're
all pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean they're both pretty similar. I would say like my middle age, she's really like princess. Like every morning that girl wakes up, it's princess dress and heels.
Yeah,
every day.
Yeah,
but she's still totally.
Funny, Ryan does the same
thing. She's a little sweetheart, but she's still like she wants to, like if I throw the offer out to go snowmobiling, to jump on there 100% all over it.
How funny is that Liv is princess too, and she's into snowmobiling like probably more so than Will as far as actually riding, right? Or is that leveling out?
No, it's ebbs and flows. They kind of go in and out. But like even just yesterday, she was running around in her little cheerleader outfit and she was dancing in the kitchen. And then 2 seconds later, she's got her mud boots on and going to catch frogs in the back of the house, like in the same breath, full dress in the mud, like grabbing awesome. Frogs out. So it's like
that's awesome.
I think it's like you're saying the high heels and the dresses. It's like if you can parlay that into like not being afraid to get dirty and like having that like same like dichotomy, I guess, and like one kid is
and they're still exactly, and they're like that, like they'll go right from princess mode to like dirty, right in the mud, or like we have a septic company and they love riding in the back truck. Like, they love it.
Honey, you know what the smell is.
They love
right?
it. Yeah. No, they straight up know, they call it the poop truck. And they're like, can I go in the poop truck? And I'm like,
sure.
On the right day, if I'm just skipping down to offload or whatever, sure.
Yeah, right. Like, some days, no, you're not coming with Dad.
Yeah.
You don't want to see what Dad actually has to do for you.
No, I don't. I don't foresee them taking that career on. I'd like to see.
Hey, you never know.
A little, maybe a little more easy, less dirty.
Yeah. So going back to sleds here, one question that I like to ask is like, what would be your like unicorn sled? What would be the sled that either you owned at one time that you wish you still owned?
I think it's 2 different questions. What's the sled you wish you never sold, and then what's your
what would be the sled that like new, old, that you could buy, build, and own?
Well, sentimental wise, I definitely would say my 600 RS.
Yeah,
that was a skidoo that I did freestyle on the last few years. That's what kind of like transitioned me into the rider kind of I am today. Like I was kind of at that like barrier, of like someone that could hit us, jump snowbanks and that thing. I started literally like hucking 100-foot, like, the 100-footers on that thing, it just, so that's sentimental. It's a sentimental snowmobile to me, and I sold it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But this one is this Chaos 850 is just unreal. Yeah. I love it. Like I've got my 17 Axis, that's a Pro, and it's just such a totally different monster. It really is. It's a very hard to tame snowmobile, and I love it every second of riding it.
Yeah, it's like when you say you sold your 600 RS, it's like at the time when you go and sell it, you're like, yep, just get rid of this thing. Like I'm done with it. I want it sold. And then you look back on it years down the road, you're like, why the fuck did I ever sell that?
Why did I sell that?
Why did I sell? Like on a nice spring day, like why can't I have that sled sitting around? I could just go for a ride on it.
Yeah. And I mean, think of a sled that's in bad shape. This was in like the worst possible shape. One cylinder was gone. It was blown up. Like your support tower to your bars.
The pyramid,
Yep, off your front shocks they were both snapped off.
So it was tired.
But it had that sentimental.
It did. I would have loved to still look at it, even just broken to pieces and blown up still. If it was here, I really would.
So we were kind of talking about Old Red, and I know.
I'm actually glad that you didn't buy it and nobody bought it, and now I have it because it's exactly at the time I was like, man, I really want that money to put towards the next sled, and like and now like time has passed and I've just absorbed it basically, and now I'm like, man, I'm so glad I have that. And that to me is like actually my first rev I'd probably keep because it was, it was a special
game changer.
It was a special sled to me.
It was like the first one you like started to really ride on.
Right, to really figure out snowmobile and like to really figure out what it is. But like now, Red is the first sled that like I built and really got me into off trail riding and like was really for that. So like I'm lucky, I guess I still have that one.
Yeah. But we were saying that, when the day comes when you get your shop built, you could mount it in like kind of
mount it on the
museum
wall.
piece
in
a way.
But your 600 RS with the blown cylinder.
Here and I'm like, I go, Dylan, you have a lot of real estate to put a shelf up there and have a museum piece.
So I did keep the freestyle seat there.
I did notice the freestyle seat.
Yep. That's I did keep that.
Yeah.
And not many people are interested in that when they come to buy. They're like, what is this?
Yeah. Oh, I knew immediately. I was sitting here, I was like, oh, it's a freestyle seat. You don't see those around very often.
Yeah, so I do have one piece of it.
Yeah, because you have the perfect real estate here to like have a shelf up there. If you had a forklift to just lift the sled and have a list of sleds up there just to.
So I did. I think actually I talked to the guy that does my carpentry. He's actually the guy that I go to Valen with, and we talked about building like a stand to store them all in.
That would be really sick.
Yeah.
That would be really sick.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to like even have it like accessible to like where you're, like a spring fling scenario where it's like, going up to Pittsburgh in middle of April or something and being like,
take down
a big bonfire and just everyone bring up like their,
nostalgia sled.
Right. Their sled just to trail ride on, rip around on, just have there, know?
Yeah. I do need a family trail sled. I think these mountain sleds are a little hard to tame on the trails.
They're terrible. They're terrible.
Mine's the worst.
Yours is the worst.
Death trap.
Yours is the worst.
Yeah.
Like I thought
maybe
about
not the Catalyst though.
I thought about whether I sell mine or keep it or whatever, and I'm like I could keep it for my wife or this and that.
No,
I'm like that's a terrible idea.
It's
my wife will kill herself on it.
Yeah.
Always a long summer when you have a new sled. You're in for it.
Yeah.
I'm like even if I kept it and had a buddy come ride it, I still would be terrified.
Right.
If someone who didn't know snowmobiling was like, "Oh, come up for the weekend. You can take my 800 Alpha," and be like, "That's just a terrible idea."
My 800 Stage 2 Alpha 165 that you look at it wrong and it tips over. Like,
right.
That's not a beginner friendly snowmobile.
No. But to your point, having some like a family sled where you could go and have, a 2-up seat on it or something and go take the family up.
You might as well get a 3-up. All kidding aside, if you're going to get a family sled, get a 3-up.
I need a limousine family sled.
Little Bearcat.
I don't know if they make 3-ups.
They do.
Who makes a 3-up?
They make I know somebody does.
I mean, you could take a mountain sled and just put a sofa seat on it.
Put it like a trail front end on it, stretch it right out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we need room for 4, so that's why I say either that or I can get a trailer, maybe, like the skis.
Oh, the tow behind. Like, the pod. Yeah.
Yep.
One guy had one of those down at Depot Camp this year. They got one of those little things.
Good way to move stuff around, I guess, right?
I get a feeling if I had kids in there, they would freeze.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do for.
I mean, there's no wind in there, but I just think if on some cold day, I think they'd just freeze in there. But I guess if you had like, hand warmers and bundled them up with a blanket in there, they'd be all right. But
yeah, because the wind in the outside cold is the worst thing, but it still would get cold.
It would still be freaking cold.
It'd still be cold in there. So I don't know. That's
Well,
I guess a nice spring day, a nice spring ride, you could take them around and and stuff.
I never am dressed for the cold. I'm all my gear is designed around mountain riding, and so like
speaking of gear.
Yeah, we're gonna need.
How many more years can we possibly get?
I should have brought that out for. We should have had that.
Insert clip.
You should just wore it on the podcast.
How many?
You should have worn it on the podcast, and we should have just absolutely shredded the leg, like just ripped the leg clean off of the thing.
You guys just say and just keep clipping pieces of it off.
Oh, you made a great joke when you were like, "Oh man, my onesie's got air conditioning."
Yeah. So, and like the group I go to Valen with, they do a little bit of both riding, so they're more prepared for the cold.
Sure.
So we go up there. It's just a quick funny story, and I don't know how you pronounce it, Chapelle or Chapel. I don't know. Some people say it.
I think it's
La Chapelle
or something like that. Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. And I was like, well, how far away is it? It's like 12 below zero out, and I'm literally in a
onesie,
windbreaker,
unsaluted, uninsulated, like
it's cold.
And Alan's like, it's not that far. And so we get rolling out there, and we've been going a while, and like the cold's really setting in. pretty bad. We come to a stop, and I'm like, yeah, Alan, you know, how much further is it? And because not only you're going to go in there and warm up for 45 minutes to an hour.
It's going to get colder when you come out.
Yeah, it's going to be getting colder. You're in Canada. It's going to be getting colder the whole time.
Yeah.
And you've got that whole ride to look forward to. You're going to be just as cold, if not colder.
Right, exactly.
So I'm getting a little concerned, and I'm like, you know, hey, how much further is it? He looks up, just up these next few corners, and we're there. So we go for like another 10 minutes. It's getting worse, cold. It's like, Alan, you know, how much further? Just up around this corner. And, you know, like another 15 minutes goes by, and I was like, all right, Alan, like, we got to be getting close.
I got to pull over and do some push-ups real quick.
I was like, that's a lot of corners, man. Like, and he's like, no, we really are almost there. And we finally got there, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Go inside, and you're sitting there for as long as possible. You're like, I got to warm up.
I got to switch over to, you know, the main reason I got that non-insulated was for out west.
Of course.
For the trip out there. I mean, it's 25 degrees and sunny every day, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, even that is hot sometimes. Like it's.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're in like just a long sleeve shirt underneath, and you're.
It's all you need.
Yeah. I'm with you. I ride in like, I hate bulk. Bulk's like my biggest
No
enemy.
insulation.
I hate bulk. Like when I'm just the feeling of
you
like,
just can't move.
I don't know if I have like childhood trauma of like maybe my mom bundled me up like Christmas Story.
I was just gonna say Christmas Story.
I have like PTSD whenever I
Can't
get
put my
bundled up.
arms down.
But I just hate bulk. So
Yeah.
I'm like a first layer and then uninsulated shell, and then so it's like the trade off is like some nights you're freezing.
Some nights are cold.
But I mean I run really warm, so I don't usually get cold.
Yeah,
But
you're rarely ever cold.
I'm sweating right now.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, like I always try to like, you know, even with going back to kids now, like I always have at least 2 or 3 packs of hot hands, either in my trail bag or in somewhere in my onesie somewhere. Yep. You know, either for emergency purposes or like, you know, handing them out to people, or my kids will have them in the truck.
They are.
Yeah, do you have any hot hands? I'm like, we're in the truck.
We're in the truck. Turn your heat seater on.
They're like, yeah, but they're fun. And I'm like, here, just, you know.
Whatever, take them. I mean, you get a pack of them. It's funny. You go to the grocery store or the gas station and buy them, and they're like $7 a piece. Or you can buy a case at Costco for $27.
The Costco ones suck, though. I don't like.
They're not as good.
Yeah.
No, the original hot hands, the red box, are the best one. The black box, not as good as the red ones or the orange. You know, whatever.
Yeah, I forget what the Costco brand are, but they're Amazon's the way to go.
Yeah, we'll give the kids the crappy ones in the summer when they want them in the truck.
yeah, and as soon as kids get cold, you know, it's whatever you're doing is over. You know what I mean? They're done with it. So.
Yeah, that's why we went up for Parade of Lights, and it was warm as hell, but the first day we went riding was cold.
Yeah.
And we went up to Scotts Bog up there, and we went, you know, the one day out of the 2 weeks, it was, you know, below freezing. And I was like, oh, we'll get some food. We'll go up on the top. We'll just hang out up there a little bit. Got up there. Kids are freezing.
Yeah.
I was like, we were up there for like 5 minutes. And then my daughter was like, you know, it was done. I was like, yeah, we're going back. Yeah. So, yeah, when kids get cold, your day's done. Because they're not like an adult where if you get cold, you can get over it. Like if you get in the woods, you start sweating again, you get stuck once, you're back.
Yeah.
You know, kids.
Cold is cold.
They're done.
Yeah.
So that works good with like the Razor with the like that's got heat in the cab and stuff. So that's like an awesome family rig. Like we jump in that thing.
Do you have a third seat in the back for him?
So we do have to get the bumper seat now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, and they love that. They love stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good time.
So when did you? Obviously, you talked about your 600 RS and jumping and stuff. When did you switch from Skidoo to Polaris? How'd that happen?
It's actually kind of a funny story.
Well,
if you want to hear
that's what we're here for.
So I was obviously a Skidoo guy, and the 2016, it was a 2016 Skidoo free ride, that like crazy red color. I don't know if you remember that one. Red,
I do.
Red with like the same green kind of Polaris.
Yeah, people picked on it about being like the Ronald McDonald sled or whatever. Yeah.
And me and my wife, we were, well, it was my fiance at the time. Ooh. We had a wedding coming up. And so...
Babe, I take a 154.
Yeah. So...
Dylan, it kind of seems that your timing of purchases is...
Oh, it's terrible. It's
the
terrible.
Supra, the sled. It's always before like a child is born or a house is bought or a wedding.
She's put up with a lot of shit with me. She really has.
Bless her heart.
Yeah. And so we had a wedding coming up, and I was like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm just dying to get a mountain sled and get in this zone. Like, I had the, I don't know what you want to call it, I just wanted to do it. And she was like, oh my God, like I don't really think we can swing that in a wedding. And like, and
logical.
So
this story's going.
Yeah, so this was still before we'd bought our house. So we still hadn't even, we were living in a rental property too on top of this. So, so I was like, you spring check it. You saved what, like $800 or something, but $800 off the price of 16,000 is like a 5-gallon pail of water on a barn fire.
Right.
Like, especially when you can't afford it to begin with. So,
and that $500 deposit to do it, that's like free money. It doesn't even count right now.
Right.
That's just
exactly.
it's not anything.
So I'm like 19. Yeah. So it's like 19 and our wedding's coming up. She's like, we like straight up, we can't afford that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even price insurance. So, time went on and I kept like, you keep seeing on Facebook, like, oh, the date to spring check. And,
they got you.
Yeah, they did 100%. And, the day it was up, I called them. I was like probably one of the last people.
Yeah.
Which is normal. If anyone knows me, I'm late to everything. Like, so I'm the last person probably to spring check on the East Coast, and I did it. Didn't tell her.
Yeah.
And time goes on, and like I'm reading up about how awesome it's going to be, and so I set it as the you always look for a nice introduction when you do something you shouldn't. So I set it as like
you gotta find that segue.
Yeah, so I set it as the background screen on my phone, and one night we were arguing, and I don't remember what it was about, but she's like, oh, yeah, I bet you wish you had that coming. Like rubbing it in my face.
You're like, oh, yeah?
I didn't say shit. I was like, I was already in trouble enough as it was. And
so you didn't throw it back at her at that moment?
No.
Okay, good call.
No. I was actually getting nervous about the whole thing. And so one day, a bunch of my friends kind of came by on side-by-sides, and I was like, man, I'd like a razor sometime too, And I don't know how it got brought up, but someone said, oh, well, you got your toy coming or whatever. And Elijah was like, wait, what?
Wait, what?
Wait, didn't you tell me it was your mom or your grandmother?
Yeah, it was like
or someone.
I think it was my grandmother, I think.
Someone spilled the beans.
Grandma, yeah, how could you do me dirty like that?
Yeah, actually, I think it was my grandma, 'cause she was standing next to the truck when I had said it. And she was like, what? Like, you've got a sled coming? Like, and yeah, that's when the ice got broke. And, it didn't go over that bad. It wasn't good, but we still got married. And turns out she was right. I couldn't afford it. And so the insurance, for some reason, like 19, I don't know what it was. The insurance was as much as the payment.
Oh, really?
Oh. Yeah. The insurance was brutal. And
who'd you go through insurance?
I don't even know. I didn't even know. Nope. I never even paid attention. I just knew I was in a rough place. Had a wedding coming. We were talking about buying this house. And I was like, this is just weird. Financially going the wrong direction here. So we dumped
I want that new sled.
Yeah, and I just kind of got out of everything. Like everything motorized. I just got out of it for like 3-4 years and just like focused on myself. Like family, took over our family company, like locked some things in that we needed, a house. And
so did you just walk away from the spring order? You're just like, I'm
no.
There's more to the story. I'm waiting to poke that at the end of the story.
Sorry.
I know the end of the story.
Because the way you were saying it is like, no, I'm done.
No. So the crazy part about this is the last day we went, like you get your last day right, and I had it sold. So like this guy was coming to buy it, and I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm like, I know I'm not going to have one of these for a couple of years. And
this is after you rode it all year.
Yeah. And it was like clean. It was good to go. Like, minimal damage. It was like kind of my first year on a mountain sled. I was kind of timid of things. I didn't go too crazy.
You said that was a free ride?
Yeah.
154?
2.5. Yep. And so we went for one last ride, and I just like poked out to where the sun must have been hidden for couple days. I mean, the snow was set up so hard, and it was just like instant, like it just started going south and sliding. So I ended up letting go of the sled, and it rolled a few times, bounced off a tree, landed down in a ravine upside down. And so I had it sold. Like that was my way out. I was like, there, babe, like I did all right. Like I spent the season on this thing, sold it, I've got it sold. Like, we're good. And no, it wasn't good. And so I had to change the price a little bit, and so
to take into account some scratches and blemishes.
Yeah,
depreciated a little bit over
Slightly.
the weekend.
Yeah, the whole pristine thing kind of went out the window. So yeah, and then so we ended up just selling it. Married, house, business. Took 4 years off, and now I'm like just watching guys progress. In that last 3 years, I've just been kind of going as hard as I can, and this old body's not taking it very well. So
old body, younger than us.
I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if it's just I've gotten better or like the rowdiness of these things, but it just really beats me up.
Yeah.
Like they really like the whole over backwards all the time stuff, and
having
a 400 and something. Yeah, but it makes good content.
It's much more fun to do it though. When it does work out, it's so fun.
So that was so your next sled was your Polaris.
Yeah, it was this one right here.
Yeah.
Yep. And I went out west on that the first year owning it. And
was that you buy that new or used?
Used.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 17 axis. It's got like a stage 2 SLP kit.
Yeah. I remember talking to you after that because you bought that sled shortly after we were talking about my red sled. And you were just like, what's your setup? What do you run for clutching? Like, and that's when we first met. I gave you that clutch tool, and we were just sort of like, I was trying to give you some pointers and whatever. And you're like, man, I went out there after watching all these videos, and he's like, this thing will not do.
Oh my God.
Will not do a reentry. Will not do a bow tie. It will not do anything. And I'm like, man, it's unfortunately without forced induction and or like crazy suspension, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, the pros don't.
They just won't do it.
The pros are designed to do a job, and they do it very well, and it's not go over backwards.
It's not do all the stuff Brandt spends.
Well, yeah, and that's like, it still says pro on it, but it's like a, $15,000 after the price tag of modification, and I think that's like, I'm pretty sure they work together on like the Chaos.
Well, yeah,
that's how the Chaos came to be.
That's how Brandt got to that's how you see the videos of them on those older chassis doing that stuff, is he figured out how to mess with the suspension geometry to make them do all the things now that a bone stock Chaos does effortlessly.
Right, and that's exactly what Polaris was looking for.
Of course it was.
They were like, hey, like we're gonna sponsor you. We're gonna give you, we're gonna give you all the tools to come back to us and say, what's your feedback?
Yeah. And now, like, they're selling more Chaoses than pros now because, whether you can do the maneuvers or not, people are like, that's what I got to have. If that's what that's what that does, I got to have that.
Even if you just want to go out and hammer wheelies in a meadow all day, you know what I mean? Like, it's because you will get bored on that sled. If you have a creative riding style, you'll get, at least on the East Coast. Like the West has a lot more features to offer, but out here, East Coast, you will get bored.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, they're just too planted. Like they're a great sled. I've ridden them for years and years and years, but they're not as playful as anything more modern. Which I am like, I cannot wait to maybe put Ryan's new sled into a tree or however that shakes out to see. I just want to see, like, I am super excited to see. I said to Ryan,
wait, hold on, you're super excited to see?
I'm really excited.
Do it, maybe,
I know.
even possibly.
Your boy has been on the same sled for like the last 5 sleds. Like, I'm excited.
I'm super excited for you. No, I'm just curious how playful it's going to be.
It does look like it's.
That's the big question. Is you see the videos online, but you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
A lot of it's snow conditions. You know what I mean? Like certain snow conditions.
A lot of variables. But
weight's a huge
elevation too.
Weight. But weight in your case might be, again, the way to make the Chaoses do all the dumb things they do is put the weight back, and they will. It doesn't matter if you're a bigger guy or a little guy. That's where they want it all the way. To make the front come up and do whatever it is you want to do, and
32 pounds lighter than my sled.
That's so much lighter.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And that's not even touching exhaust or anything.
Right,
that's a stock
so
exhaust on it.
Pull that suitcase out, heave it over the bank.
Yeah. There's another 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Although you supercharge it, you're going to add 20 back. So,
oh God, those are brutal, man. The superchargers are like what, $7,000 or something, I think.
Yeah,
the superchargers are like, I don't know about quite double, but almost double the price for over a turbocharger.
They're pricey. I actually just saw. I was, I'm on Marketplace because I'm laid up doing nothing and I'm bored, and there was a supercharged Polaris the other day, and I'm like,
really?
I haven't seen. I know there was a company that did them, but I just.
Does Speedworks make a kit for players?
It must have been. Had to be. I don't know.
Huh.
So.
But speaking of out west, Dylan, kind of next question I wanted to float by you is picture this. Picture in your head, budget aside, time away from family aside, what would be like your number one sled destination?
Oh, to go?
To go.
Where's your dream spot? Where do you gotta check off the list?
Money aside, logistics aside, sled aside, just like.
Oh boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Where are we going? And we're flying. We ain't driving.
Yeah, I have to say probably Revy. That's a sick place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we want to do Revy again.
Yeah.
We've talked about that a bunch, and yeah.
That's on like definitely. In some of the places like Turcotte rides there up in Alaska, that looks wild up there. But
Alaska's for us,
Alaska's a it's a shot. Even like BC is a kind of a pipe dream for me. So I'd like to try it, but
yep.
I don't know. I don't think Alaska will ever happen, but they had they've got some sweet terrain up there. Like
Alaska's, from some of the videos you see, there's just like they ride through some of these areas and there's just no trees at all, and it's just rolling crazy mountains. And like,
I think you gotta.
I've never, Revy's got some big mountains, and we got to see the big mountains only a couple times, but like Alaska looks like that, but just forever.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah. Just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and like.
I really like the cliff drop stuff. Like I love the drops, and I've never really been able to do too many. Mm-hmm. And so that place looks like it's wild for that, like just everywhere.
Yeah, I love to see it. I love to just see like you're saying, the terrain in Alaska must be just out of this world. Yeah. And then I guess like you have to talk to someone who knows the area a lot. With like the 24 hours of darkness and like that whole thing in the middle of the winter, like what's the best time of the year to go, like where to go, like all of those things. Have to figure it out, but I definitely want to do Alaska.
I don't think it's any different than going to even the Chick Chocks or whatever. I've come to, the older I am and less frugal or cheap is the nice way to say it, but like there's nothing wrong with hiring a guide no matter where you go. And
no,
like to get you into the zones that you really want to be in. You don't want to waste your time. And like that's what I'm not saying we wasted our time when we went to Revy, but we didn't know where the hell we were going. We didn't have a clue.
No, we rode the trail and went, oh, that looks good over there.
Yeah, and it's like you watch you watch some Muskoka videos or whatever, and he goes right by the lodge in Boulder, the same one that we went to, and 10 minutes later they're in the you're like, man, which turn did I take wrong to get to there? Like right. I want to go where that is, you know what I mean?
Right, because a good example of that, when we were in Revy, we went up to that lodge and we went across the little meadow and up on the other side, and we dropped down to this, like, you call it a drainage. It kind of like it was this ravine that kind of went down the hill, and we were jumping off the sides and kind of like playing. And as you went down, it just kept going down. We have no idea what's down there.
Right.
A guide might be like, oh yeah, go down there. It opens up and it's beautiful down there.
Yeah, take a left and then go up another chute.
I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, let's just go down this death, valley to see if it,
drop down in somewhere and now you can't get out and you're that guy everyone's talking about.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Right. So it's like a guide is going to be someone who can point you in the right direction and you're not wasting time and you can take a chance going down this ravine and you're not just like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I will say, like, right in the Chick Chocks really opened my eyes for like what you hear about guys dropping down in areas and
getting,
because you don't really deal too much with that. I mean, it can, but not to the extent it can happen out there. Yeah, like in the Chick Chocks, it can be pretty bad out there because you're here. You'll hike out of somewhere. You know what I mean?
You can only get so screwed up around here. You could definitely get in trouble, but not like
Chick Chocks were like an hour ride back. You know what I mean?
Chick Chocks, you could lose your life. I mean,
yeah.
Right. And the ride back is to the town, which is not much in the town, so it's like from help you're far.
Yeah,
far.
Not a good situation by any means.
All.
Yeah. You got to listen to the other pod we did with Jonathan, and he had some good stories.
He had one really good story about some people getting into a situation when he
tells you a story too about like, don't go down there, do not go lower, do not do this. Like you tend to believe him.
Oh yeah, like the day when he was on the radio, he's like, please. Stop going down.
To crawl. Yeah.
Sorry. Don't go lower.
Please don't go lower.
Yeah, and of course that comes back to him knowing what's down there, you know, and you get down in there, and I rode to the edge of it, and I was like, "There's no way I don't."
When we got down to that little dink trail to go up, remember at the end of the day?
Yeah,
over that dink trail was like, "There's no way you're riding that."
Yeah,
it was just so steep and thick. You're like, "Nope."
You'd have to have a portable wincher come along to get a sled out of that.
Yeah,
it's just so steep. It's so steep and treed and rocks, and it's not rideable. Physically, you could not ride.
Yeah, and you know, you might be dropping down in where it's open a little bit, but once you get down in there, you know, you think, oh, you know, it'll mellow out and I can make my way.
There's no mellow out in the chick shocks.
No. Yeah, just ravine.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to just wait until spring.
Yeah.
Until the snow was set up in hero snow where you could
climb
out.
Climb out where you came in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, you said, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first time you went west was you went to Wolf Creek, right? That was your first experience out there? Yeah. Which, you know, that's area. For myself and Ryan, that's the first place we went, right? Yep. You went to Utah before that, but that was kind of different.
Yeah, that wasn't a solo sled
right.
trip.
This was a dedicated sled trip. And yeah, Wolf Creek holds a special place in our heart for us. It's a super cool area.
Yeah, that's where my, bust my cherry.
The place will do it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild out there. I mean, once you see those if you're like a snowmobile backcountry guy, if you've never seen that before and you see it,
it's crazy.
It totally ruins it for you here. It does.
Yeah.
It does.
The
hype is still real here, but
it's just different. It's just very different. It's similar but very different in the sense of, when it's good here, I wouldn't trade some of the riding we did in Jeffersonville, I wouldn't trade that for anything out. No. Like it's just a different discipline, but it's very eye-opening.
The hard part mentally to know is like the style of the terrain is there and the snow is usually almost always there.
Right.
Yeah, where here, I would love here if we had consistent snow all year round.
Right.
And like we'll get a storm here and the snow's only good for most of the time, the last few winters, like 3 days.
Right, you got to hit it. You got to hit it right when it's snowing. You can't.
Yeah, like you cannot leave it and let it set.
Yeah, no. The first time we rode with you in the Jeffersonville area, like that was a Tuesday, right, or a Monday or whatever it was. Like, storm came in. We're like,
Tuesday,
we have 1 day to hit this.
Yeah, it was like Bluebird that day. We're like, yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be 55 and
sunny the next day.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, you have one good day to hit it, and then after that, it's junk.
Yeah, you were saying about like the awe of like coming out and seeing the Rockies, like you're driving out.
Yeah, it's wild.
Seeing that first time, the time that obviously those times were pretty awe-inspiring, but the time that we were driving from Calgary into Revy was like the time where I was like the one time I remember where I'm like, holy shit.
Those mountains are
when you drive through through like Banff and Lake Louise and Glacier National Park was like. Like unbelievable. You're like, man, this is. And you're going. Remember the climbs were going down. You're like, Jesus Christ! And you see the road like way down in the
going down there
in the ravine. Like we're on way down there, and then you climb. And it was wild.
Really? Yeah. See, we didn't travel too far back, because the South Fork town it's basically on the outskirts,
Yeah.
So we did take a day of sightseeing when we were out there. We just went and drove around. We went to this really old mine that was there. It was really cool.
Yeah,
like on an off day.
Yeah, we kind of like after 4 days of riding, we were like, wow, elevation, the lack of oxygen and how beat up we are, and we need to take
when we used to do those week 10 day or whatever long trips, we'd always be like, all right, in the middle we're gonna try to have an off. It never happens, a rest day, like because you're just we're here, got to do it. We're going home in 3 days, like But after
as we got older, we started to do rest days.
If you really ride hard, like if you're really pushing yourself and your sled and everything for like 3 days, after that you're done. You need time. You need days.
Yeah.
Like it's tough.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
I think it's better too for like the back half of your week. If you take a rest day and you we took that rest day in Revy and we went to the hot springs. And Joe and I and Dennis and those guys. And
no, I was patient zero. I had COVID.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you, Phil.
You're on your deathbed.
Yeah, Phil was feeling great. Gave me COVID. I was it was bad.
So well.
Well, I don't think Phil gave you. I think it was me who gave you COVID.
I think it was actually Phil. You were sick, but I don't think because remember I had something different. What you had was different than what I had, and Phil's like, "Oh, I just got over that." Cool, thanks.
Yeah, so that was actually. We'll do a quick story on that. That was actually we were driving out to Revy from here.
Which is nuts. Don't do
which
it.
Which is nuts. So it was 53 hours from here. And it was me, Max, and Dennis. We're going to drive down to Southwick, Mass. to pick up Joe Calabrese's truck and Phil's trailer and drive from Southwick to Revy. And the week leading up, I was on my deathbed. This is the January or February before COVID shut down. It was like a month before COVID shut down.
Which we're worried we're going to, like, are we going to make it through the border? What's going to happen? Like, we were at the pinnacle of shit's hitting the fan.
I think it was like January 2020, and COVID just started to happen in, like, overseas in China, like, just started getting talked about. And we're like, fuck it, let's just go. And I was deathly sick, like 2 days before we left. Like, I was telling these guys, I'm like, I'm not going. Like, I can't even stand up. Like, I'm throwing up. I'm sick. I'm like, whatever, fever. So sick. The day we were leaving, I woke up and I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel all right. Oh, let's go. So
get in the truck and drive 53 hours. You're like, I'm okay.
Yeah, like I'm good. I'm good for like a little stroll. So we hop in the truck. We start driving all the way out there. I start feeling fine. And then, even Max and Dennis were like, if you get me sick, I'm going to be so bullshit and this and that.
I'm ripping emergency and like taking vitamin gummies and like I am pumping myself full of vitamin D and C to try to avoid the plague over here.
Yeah,
got sick anyway.
Zero, COVID patient zero.
Didn't work.
So we go all the way out there, finally get there. I think you rode one day.
Yeah.
Rode one day. The next day you woke up and you're like, dude, I'm sick.
I'm sick.
And you were on a bed for 5 days.
I missed like I rode 2 days, and the second half of the second day, I threw up in my helmet, and that's when I knew that I was sick. Right. Yeah, like I couldn't pull my helmet and my balaclava off fast enough, and I threw up, and like as I'm pulling my balaclava off my face, and then I think I spent 3 days in bed, or 2 days, whatever it was, not including the rest day, like riding days, and then this is not PG, I'm sorry, but the second and last day I went out riding and I shat my onesie.
Shat my onesie.
I shat in my onesie because I thought I was going to throw up and I was really trying not to, and it turned out it didn't throw up. Shit myself. Yeah, it was I was sick. I was incredibly sick, and it was very tough.
One of the good waterproof ones, was it?
Yeah.
So I held it in. Was it?
Yeah, it was not a good time.
Yeah, Dennis never got sick, but he was in the same room with us.
Joe did, like only for a couple days.
Well, fucking Joe.
Fucking Joe.
We're in this, we're in a small little, room. There's like 3 beds in this small room, little kitchenette, and you're on the other side bed. Yeah. And fucking Joe comes in. He's like, "Oh, hey, buddy," and like lays down
next to me,
next to you in his bed. And I'm like, "Dude, he's fucking sick."
I'm patient zero.
Why are you
sick as a dog?
So he was the next victim.
So Joe's laying down on the bed with him. We're like, "Joe, he's sick. You probably shouldn't lay right next to him." And he's like, whatever. And then like the day or two later, we're walking out to go riding, and Joe walks out of the house and just all over the side of the trailer. I'm like, dude, this is like 28 days later right now. Like,
oh my god,
this is how it spreads.
So he started throwing up the next day, and he was like, I'm fine, let's go. And I don't think he felt fine that day. I think he was, but he didn't fall like you were like you were feverish dead, but he definitely
was.
Oh man,
yeah. And luckily, by the time we were ready to go home, it was great. I felt good. I was all good. Everything had passed, and
But luckily on that trip, we timed it really well. We actually flew back, and the Brienne boys drove the trailer back.
Yeah, because you always want to drive out. You never ever want to drive back.
Yeah, so
the drive back's brutal. Yeah. You're all beat up, you know.
Yeah, driving out and flying back is the game.
Speaking of driving out, my wife got to experience what it was
to
drive across country, to drive from Colorado back home. Because obviously, if you listen to the last podcast, I broke my leg. That screwed up the whole end of my season. And basically, I was supposed to go out and see Ryan and Justin at Jackson Hole, and my plan was to drive my truck back that I brought out before Christmas after Jackson Hole. Well, with a broken leg, that just wasn't going to be possible. So I delayed it 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it was. We had a vacation planned in Texas, went and did that, flew from Texas to Denver, and like immediately got in my truck and drove back to Vermont. And my wife has never done anything like that. She was it was actually kind of her idea, because she's like, I can't, technically I wasn't even supposed to be driving, but she's like, I can't let you do that by yourself. And I was
that's
just gonna,
not a smart idea to do by
yourself. I was going to wait and probably do it like this month. Like just wait till I'm really good and fly out and then bring my truck back or whatever. But it worked out fine. And
but you were already going to Texas. So you were kind of already going out there.
Yeah, and like Frontier Airlines for like $17, you can fly from Texas to Denver or whatever it is. Right. And we flew into Denver and we were with our friends Dave who lives out there and went to his house where my truck was. And all right, good to see you. Thanks for the great time. And we just started off and drove back cross country and. She did probably like 2/3 of the driving, and she was just like, man.
She did good though, right?
She did really good.
Yeah.
It all cool. Obviously it all depends on everything, conditions, and just you never know what you're going to run into on the road. And we hit nothing but the greatest. It rained for 15 minutes, maybe. We only hit a little tiny bit of traffic. We had one little mini dust storm. We had a really gnarly section of tumbleweeds. We had a tumbleweed storm.
No way.
Like maybe 2 hours out of Denver, the crosswinds on I-80 are ripping, right? They're insane. There was tumbleweeds like I've never seen in my life, like blowing and smashing into the truck and rolling up over the hood. And there's other cars hitting them, stuck in their grill or whatever, like thousands of them. Yeah. And then, half a mile later, it's like nothing ever. It's so wild. But
that's pretty cool. I would have liked to have seen something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. It actually made me think of the time that when we did it with Dave. Remember, he stopped and got a tumbleweed for his son. He's like, Connor's really gonna like this, and he found this big, beautiful, round tumbleweed, put it in the trailer, and we had to truck it around for the whole time. But
it was good. We were Allison and I were actually thinking about you and Megan driving back because we were reminiscing about our trip to Georgia, picking up our boat, and it was like that was Allison's first like big long
road trip.
Like not a stop and take it easy trip. It's like a let's go.
It's trip. Go.
And she was like, I wonder how Megan's doing. I think I texted her one time when she posted on Instagram. And
she honestly did. She did really good. She just like anything, you enjoy it all the way up until like the last quarter of it.
When you get to like New York.
New York
sucks.
Sorry, New York sucks.
Sucks.
Their roads suck. Their roads suck.
It's
long and whatever. You actually have a really good story about your first trip out, and
oh my god!
Please enlighten us on that one. Your only trip out,
yeah. So that's why there's no talk of driving again for me. Let me tell you why.
Please,
not happening. And you really want it? You want me to go there?
Yes.
Yeah. It was bad. So we had what was there? 4 of us. We're gonna take a trip out west, and we leave. So we load up. We were going to meet the guy's name was Ken, and we were going down to his house. And he had a bigger truck, bigger trailer. Mm-hmm. It fit 2 backup sleds and then plus 4 other sleds. So we're gonna have a good setup. Roll down there and jump in the truck, like load the trailer up, switch everything around, head out. I take like a quick nap, and I wake up. I don't know. We were in like Pennsylvania somewhere.
You are a champion truck napper, by the way. I've learned that from coming back from Gas Bay. I wish I could do that. I wish. Anyway, sorry.
I've been known to fall asleep before on long drives for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I wake up and like they're talking about this light that's on. It's like ding 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 ding, and of course like I've got a fair amount of experience with diesels and stuff.
What kind
like
of truck
that.
was this?
It was a Duramax.
Okay.
And
like a new one, right?
Yeah, it was a sweet truck. Yeah. Really nice truck. And it's I don't remember what the actual code. I think it was like something about the DEF quality. And so like I look it up real quick, and usually anything like DEF emission related is going to shut you down on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And eventually, and it said like the truck's going to go into D rate. I looked it up online. It's like so much time at this speed, so much time at this speed, la da da da. So we're like, this truck is not going to get us out west, and we're 3.5 hours in. To the trip
to a 30-hour
So
drive.
you're like Syracuse.
Yeah. Well, it was Pennsylvania.
Okay, so just barely. You mean the sliver of Pennsylvania? That's
we were
this
like
big?
Just barely.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm trying to think. So we stopped at like an O'Reilly's or something and tried to get a scan tool, like figure it out. But like that stuff, it has to go to a dealer.
Yeah.
There's no
the modern emission stuff. Nothing at O'Reilly's.
Yeah, you're not gonna fix a $800 contaminated sensor with a flathead screwdriver. It's just not going to happen. So we So finally, we find a Chevy dealership to take this thing to, and it's God. I want to say it's like 7 o'clock at night or so. Everything's just kind of shutting down.
Uh-huh.
And so we drop it off there, and then I found a taxi company called Latino Taxi to come and pick us up.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, so I know, and we're like, we know nothing about this place. You know what I mean? We are in the middle of nowhere to me. Like, I've never been here, and none of us had. So we call them up, and they bring us to what's that airport in Pennsylvania?
Don't even know.
Oh God.
Oh God, damn it!
Because you're like near Erie, right?
Yeah, it was Scranton, Pennsylvania, or yeah.
I don't know. You can look it up.
Yeah. Either way, so we go to this airport. We rent a rental car. We hammer all the way back in freezing rain, back to get it's an F-150 EcoBoost, dude. To this day,
all the way back here.
Nobody will ever talk shit in front of me about an F-150 EcoBoost.
Wait. So you drove back from Pennsylvania back to
Vermont.
Vermont.
So the original truck we went down in was an F-150. It was my friend's Alan's truck. We rolled down in an F-150 EcoBoost with a smaller trailer.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna load into this bigger trailer.
Right.
And bigger truck. That's gonna hold two.
So you got to go back through New York all the way to Vermont to get the EcoBoost to go back out.
We roll all the way back to where I don't even remember where we had met. Was it Connecticut? I think it was Connecticut.
Oh God.
And so we go all the way back. We pick up the truck we came from Vermont in. We drive back to the airport. We drop the rental car off. We drive back to the dealership. We swap the truck around in the parking lot at like 2-3 in the morning. And
so still taking the big trailer though.
Yeah. So the funny part about this trip is I was like, I had cold feet. I was like, Alan, I'm done. I was like, I got to go home. Like,
this isn't right. Yeah.
I was like, I can't do this.
It's got bad karma written
back,
all over.
Like back to the homesick thing. And
Yeah.
It's like 2:00. I know like one of my daughters is waking up, just had a bad dream. I'm like, I got to be back home. This was a bad idea. And Alan's like, no, you're not leaving.
No.
I was like, Alan, I got U-Haul like right here. I'm going to just call him, load my stuff in the U-Haul. Like, no big deal. You guys are good. And he's like, no, you're not leaving.
You're not allowed.
So he straight up, he was like dead serious. He's like, no, you're coming. We're here. We're going.
Yeah.
And we hook his truck on, pull out in like this god awful snowstorm now. And I'm the first driver with a huge trailer on an F-150 EcoBoost. And
this is a 6-place trailer.
Yeah, straight up nonstop. Like next stop is Colorado. Like
just put her down
nonstop, man. And this, like I say, no one will talk shit about an EcoBoost in front of me because that thing took it like a champ. I mean,
you must have to fuel up quite a bit though.
Yeah, so it was really weird when we got up to higher elevation. The fuel mileage like jumped way high, and I don't know if it's something to do with like less fuel, less oxygen thing. I really don't know.
Sure.
Oh man, that's a little truck to be pulling all that weight that way on big interstate.
So like when you started getting tired and shit at night, and 3 people are out relying you on their lives.
Yeah.
Like the 18-wheeler guys, like they're out, they're getting paid by the mile, like they're headed.
They're freighted.
So I'm like, rolling down through at night, and like every time an 18-wheeler comes in, it starts to blow you off the road, and then as he comes by, it sucks you right into him. Yes. You're like, you just can't correct it enough, and you add, 4 fatigued, tired, like just shot guys.
Yeah.
We're just rotating in the truck nonstop.
Yep.
Stop for fuel.
That was your Wolf Creek trip?
Yep. And then we played a game. We all got so bored, we played a game. We're like, all right, let's see who can go the closest, or I don't know, who can get the most miles out of a tank of gas. And we all like got blown out of the water. Like totally. The Ken who was driving the truck, we woke up in the middle of the night, and the gauge was like buried on empty, and it said you have 2 miles until empty. And we're like, you do realize like our trip is still on the line here.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're in the middle of nowhere, and it's like something out of a movie. We're rolling off the interstate. It's out west. It's all flat as a pancake.
There's nothing.
And you see the big truck stop.
Yeah.
And like we're rolling to the truck stop, and it's like,
oh no!
And we're like, oh my god! So we roll like power through the stop sign,
roll in.
Oh yeah, and like just barely make it.
Coughing.
And, it was bad. It was so he hands down won that game.
So
I wasn't going to challenge.
So hats off to the Eagle Boost.
When we did it, we played it the opposite way because our what we did was, if you're driving, you drive through a tank of fuel. That was our that's your shift. So it became, how fast could I get through a tank of fuel? So that requires triple digits for extended periods of time.
Oh,
Ryan.
man.
And it was like, especially, the witching hours, the wee hours of the morning, you want your shift over as fast as possible, which means you drive like an absolute banshee.
Yeah.
There was no care for fuel economy, even remotely.
So which one of you was the one that had the lead foot?
Well, I mean, all of us, but yeah. You and Kroll set the record on the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, we were going to Alpine, and we got off of 80, and we were down. I forget what interstate it is, but it's not the interstate. It's like a side. It's between. I think between 80 and like Afton, Wyoming.
Yeah.
When you go north right there.
That's where it does this.
Yeah, it was a little a little Y there, and Max was sleeping. I think he woke up, and I was doing like 110 in his Cummins.
That's the one you sent out. You're like, no,
I'm like, I'm all
lying.
Number one, I took a whole bunch of ZQuil, and I had some other substances to help me sleep because I'm a really bad sleeper. Like, that's why I said I envy you, because in the back seat, I can't sleep sitting up anyway. So I finally like wake up out of my drug-induced coma. And I'm like, right, how fast are you going? And you're like,
you don't want
I look over, you're like, I don't want to know. And I was like, it's like 107. The cruise control was set at. And I'm like, wow, okay.
So
and it wasn't the interstate. It was like kind of a secondary road.
It wasn't even I-80.
And like Nick, the guy behind me, we had radio, so we were like radioing back and forth. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing 107. Yeah, I'm doing 110. Like, see how fast we can just keep going down. I'm just waiting for like an elk to come across the road and just
oh my God,
take us out.
Well, you'd have an excuse to stay out west for a little longer. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's wild.
We're talking about the sled you wish you never got rid of. What about the truck? That truck went back and forth. How many times? Six, 7 times or whatever?
Am I going to mess this up if I skip out?
No, go ahead. I'm going to do it after you. But yeah.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
We went back and forth. I mean, that thing did so many trips and did really.
How many did it do? It did at least 5.
Well, there was Wolf Creek at least once. There was Wyoming a couple times. There was. Oh, we did Rabbit Ears. We did a bunch of other places in Colorado too. So we did
Chick Chocks a couple times.
Well, yeah, that's nothing, right?
Yeah. Well,
compared to driving to out west. But yeah, it did a lot of Chick Chock trips, like 2 or 3 a year for quite a while, right?
It might have had a little more life in it if the tune wasn't on there and a couple other things. But.
And if, my buddies weren't driving at 100-something miles an hour for extended periods of time while I was sleeping.
Towing a trailer,
and, never overheated or, just.
Oh, no, it worked.
Just letting the RPMs rip.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder when this truck's going to make it out.
You think you're not going to drive out again, are you?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean... It depends. We were talking about before, like when Will gets to be a little older, and maybe like a high school trip.
That would be
if he gets really into snowmobiling and high school before he takes that next step in life or something. I'll be like, hey, let's take a
road trip.
And go out and ride Colorado or something.
I think I told you already. Strickland's coming down, and he's going to join us for grass drags and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I told you that. Good.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. He's like, I loves me a road trip, and he's all excited to drive down.
That's so far for him.
It's so far. It's crazy far. It's
like 15, right?
It's like 16 and a half.
Yeah, it's
and he's like, oh, I think I'm gonna take. Oh, so get this. No, he's like, I think I'm gonna take the long way down, but he's definitely taking the long way back because he bought a sled. Polaris did their whole leftover. We're giving away snowmobiles now. He bought a Boost in Gas Bay out at, like. The end, where the end of the peninsula where actual Gas Bay is.
Where the town is?
He bought a sled out there, brand new at a dealership. Listen, I saw the numbers. The deal made sense. Let me put it that way. But when he's done with us, he's going to drive out there, pick up his new sled, drive all the way back to where the ferry crosses. I think it's in Baie-Comeau. And then
I think it's Matane.
Yeah, well, it goes from Matane to Baie-Comeau, and then he's going to drive up to his place, which I'm like, I think that's 20-something hours at least, 22, 23, 24.
Hey, the deal makes sense.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna tag out.
Yeah, well, why don't we just end it because I got losing too.
You got to go too.
Sorry, I messed you guys up.
No, it's fine. I
couldn't take it any longer. It's all I was focusing on. I was like,
it's all good. It's all good.
Well, Dylan, thanks for having us out here, man. It was great to have a little chat with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming. It was good seeing you boys, and look forward to some good rips this winter.
No, it's been great riding with you just this last year or two or whatever, and obviously we got a lot more riding to do, and
yeah, for sure.
It's been a lot of fun, and
we'll have to have one of these recap podcasts after a day of riding this coming year.
Yeah, I'd be up for that for sure. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this winter. It should be pretty fun.
It will be.
Yeah, hopefully, I think we're all looking forward to it.
Hopefully, we can get a little Western this year.
We're definitely gonna. I mean, you gotta get Sled for it now. So
yes, should have.
We'll see.
Hopefully, I certainly would like to test that out.
Yeah,
and get on it. Throw a leg over the saddle on that. I think it's gonna be a good time.
Nice, cool. All right, well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.